I'm Tracy with MeatRx. I'm here today with another great success story from Misty. Hi, Misty.
Hi, Tracy.
Thank you for coming to our show. Can you begin by telling me what was life like, your health conditions and the foods that you ate prior to coming to Carnivore?
Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. It's a great opportunity. Life for me, growing up, and I'll keep it pretty short. You probably don't want my whole life story, but I was a skinny kid, and I grew up in a family who was very loud and liked to have the big parties and have the food that went along with those parties and liked to really hoop it up and have a good time. But I was a skinny kid and I ate what I wanted until I was probably 15 or 16 years old, maybe even after that. And I never had to worry about my weight. I was one of those kids. I wasn't an adult yet, but people would say to me, especially my family, skinny mini, because my name's Misty, little nicknames, get over here, scrawny, stuff like that. So I figured that's how I was born and that's how I was going to stay, and ate whatever I wanted because I never gained weight. And I thought it was a thing, like, oh, I guess I'm special, sort of, right? And so I kept up those habits for years and years and years. And we ate a lot of carbs in my family's standard American diet, the ice cream. I was never really big on desserts, but I ate as much as I wanted, and packaged foods, Doritos, stuff like that. Salty, crunchy was my thing. Still kind of is, but I can't really have it. And so I continued to eat like that, I think, into 18, 19, 20 years old. Maybe even beyond that, I started to become aware of the fact that I was gaining weight. Probably 18 or so, drinking a lot of beer. And part of this discussion today is, alcohol is something that a lot of people do not want to talk about. At least I have found during doing this carnivore diet, I listened to all the people, and it's not mentioned very often. And I drank since I was probably 17 years old. And I just gave that up a couple of years ago when I started keto, then into carnivore. But alcohol is sugar, and I think it's a taboo topic. And I just wanted to mention, I think that's why I started to gain weight so quickly after I got out of my teens into 18, 19, 20, I started to put on a little bit of weight. And I really think it was the beer drinking. I really do, with the eating habits that I had developed over the years, of course, from being a skinny kid and running around and not worrying about that kind of thing. So that's like a little introduction, but I definitely want to kind of bring this forth because I really think it is not talked about enough in the community. And into my 20s, I was fairly healthy, but if you're drinking a lot, I don't really think you're healthy. And then you may not even pay attention to the fact that that could be making you keep disease or keep little problems you may think that are normal, that happen when you get older. High blood pressure being one of them for me personally. And, I was on the birth control pill for a few years there, and they say, well, you just get high blood pressure on the pill. So it's probably that, at the doctor's office. So I actually think it had to do with my eating habits mostly, and the drinking.
Oh, okay. So mainly you had high blood pressure and the drinking, that was the difficulty. Did you have any other health issues?
Eczema. I've always had eczema. Another thing, my mom said, well, you've had it since the day you were born, eczema. You came out of the womb with eczema. So I also thought, well, that can't be related to anything I'm doing because I've had that since I was born, And so that's normal to think, I think, for a lot of us when we've had something for a long time. I don't think my parents were that in tune with the fact that I may have been like gluten intolerant or lactose intolerant. We drank plenty of milk in my house. And so I just dealt with it. But that was definitely one of my main issues.
Okay. So can you tell me, how did you hear about the carnivore diet, and how did you come to the carnivore diet? How did you implement it? And also, did you have any transitional issues?
Well, I actually started keto first. This is probably typical, and you guys probably talk about this with people a lot. So I was stumbling on the internet one day. I found an apple cider vinegar video from Dr. Berg, and it led me down this rabbit hole of what is this keto diet thing, and liver toxicity and insulin resistance and all of these terms I had never even heard of before. Then again, I have never really looked into my health before. And the only thing I had noticed about my health at that point, let's say, is, I gained weight over the years. And, especially for us women, well, that's just what happens when you get older. Women gain more than men, and different things and hormones. And, but I looked into it, and it turns out, wow, low carb. I've never thought about this before. I never even really gave it a thought, but I started to implement the keto diet, low carb, lots of salads, a lot of vegetables. I was obsessed with the big garden tomatoes that you get, at the farmer's market. I was eating a ton of those, a lot of greens, a little bit of meat, probably not enough meat, as we come to find out after doing keto, most of us, that we're not eating enough meat. And that's why we're here, probably. But yes, so I started with keto, and to make a long story a little shorter, I found that my eczema did not go away, really. So even though I had never thought of it as something I could cure, I started to hear that keto was good for curing things like eczema. No one mentioned alcoholism still. But in the back of my mind, I said, I wonder if it could help me stop drinking, so that I could lose weight and get healthier. And maybe the drinking is making me stay fat. And so I started looking into it, and did okay on keto. I would find myself dizzy sometimes. I think with the electrolyte imbalance that can happen. And I went ham on the keto desserts. This is typical, I'm sure. But I thought I was just going to be this keto dessert baker, start my own channel, and just be, creations that I have made up through, hybrids of other people's creations. And I became food obsessed when I was on keto. And then I became sweetener addicted. So keto did well for me to get me started. I had stopped drinking, and keto made it easier to do that. And I started to lose weight, and I did lose a good deal of weight on keto. And I still love keto, of course, but now I do 90% carnivore, 10% keto. And I do include a vegetable here and there, some fermented stuff, sauerkraut, pickles, a couple other pickled vegetables here and there, and maybe some Brussels with some bacon occasionally, just for a change of pace. But now I love carnivore, and I stumbled across it, listening to videos constantly. And Paul Saladino was talking to someone like ShawnBaker. It might have been those two. No surprise, right? But they were talking about not eating vegetables, that they have oxalates and lecithins or lectins, and these things that could be harming you. And I said, geez, I wonder if that's happening to me. And I really, something clicked when I heard this video. I just felt like this is my answer, because I wasn't moving in the direction, I guess, fast enough. And I still had my eczema. And I started to feel bloated, and things slowed down for me on keto. And I just really wanted to just step it up a notch. So then I came to carnivore, and I am loving 90%, of course, and I'm loving life here.
Well, that sounds awesome, Misty. So did you have any transitional issues? I mean, coming from keto, you maybe didn't very much at that point. But
well, I had implemented intermittent fasting. And then I had also tried to fast for a couple days at a time. I tried the extended fasting in between, kind of transitioning from keto to carnivore, trying to feel my way around this nutrition thing. I did experiment with extended fasting, as well as intermittent fasting had always been there, which I forgot to mention. When I started keto, I did intermittent fast, which is, skipping breakfast, 16/8. But the extended fasting was interesting to me. I still don't know quite how I feel about fasting. I've seen different things go on. And so the transition was a little bumpy at first, because I think the fasting may have been too much for my body. And, sometimes for women, our hormones get a little jacked up. I may have skipped a period or two during that time, but I'm not going to blame that on carnivore. I'm going to blame that on fasting. And it seemed that when I started to get more into carnivore and implementing just mostly meat, eggs, some dairy, butter, a lot of bacon, of course, then things smoothed out for me.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So can you tell me how long you've been carnivore and what kind of situation or what kind of healing did you experience from going from keto to carnivore?
Sure. So October of 2019 is when I started carnivore, strictly meaning mostly meat and eggs and dairy. So we're looking at, I think, 1 year and 3 months I'm in now. And some of the healing I've had, there's a lot. But my eczema, I have a very, very little bit. Now, this is the first time in my life that I've had this little bit. And so I'm very, very excited about this. Another major thing was the high blood pressure. That was always a thing. It ran in my family. And I just thought, kind of like I thought when I was skinny, that it was, and when I had eczema, that it was something that was just in my genes and there's not much I can do about it. Oh, well, your uncle has high blood pressure, your mom, you just think that you're doomed in a way. But I think it was the weight and the way I was eating and the drinking. And so carnivore has taken away my high blood pressure. I had been on some high blood pressure medication through the years, and it never seemed to go down very much. And the thought of having no medication in my body is very, very, very exciting to me. And I just want to tell everybody in the universe that I healed my high blood pressure, and that's, pretty major.
That is very major. When did you start noticing that your blood pressure was going down, and when did you decrease the medicine or stop it altogether?
Somewhere between keto and carnivore. When I was on keto, I still had high blood pressure. So I think, going back to what you asked me earlier, I think that was one of the things that got me looking into what else can I do? Keto is supposed to be the end all be all. And we all know it leads most of us here to carnivore, which is great. And it's a great improvement from the SAD diet. But I think that's actually what happened is my blood pressure was still elevated. And here I was, thinking I'm doing everything right, being on keto, but I was really into the sweeteners and I started to eat the desserts and get into the baking a little too much. And, the faux recipes that we all love. I think I was becoming food obsessed. But to answer your question, I actually think that is what led me to carnivore, is my blood pressure really wasn't fixed with keto. And it is now fixed with carnivore. I was afraid to go to the doctor for like a straight year. I finally went a couple months ago, right after my year carniversary, and it was, 120 over 66 instead of, 150 over 110. Just to give you an idea, I'm pretty sure it's healthy now.
Yes, it sounds very healthy. So that's great. So you had so much healing on carnivore and everything. Can you give me an idea of what you typically eat in a day? Do you eat like 2 meals a day, and do you just eat, well, I know you said you include some vegetables, but do you mostly eat meat and eggs rather than like dairy, or do you eat any fish?
That's interesting you mentioned fish. Is that what you said at the end? Yeah, I'm not big on seafood, but just recently, in the last couple of weeks, I said, I'm missing a whole area of meat because I'm not that into seafood. I just don't even think that way. I'm just really big on beef. Always have loved beef. When I heard about this diet, just to backtrack a second, when I heard beef was kind of the main kind of thing that does very well for our bodies, I was so in. It was crazy because I've always loved beef more than kind of anyone else except my dad. And I feel like your body talks to you, and I feel like you should listen when it does. And if you love beef, there may be a reason, and I really needed that. But to answer your question, I've been experimenting with really large pieces of fish, and I'm going to start to do that more often. But what I normally consume is beef. Hamburgers with no buns, bacon and cheese with some butter is my go-to. I love chicken wings for the collagen in all those bones. I even take the leftover, I freeze the bones. It's kind of gross, but you look in my freezer, there's all these bags of bones. And I make bone broth with that. And oh my gosh, I have to just give it up for bone broth. I have definitely done the liver thing. And I do think it helps. I've kind of backed off from that a little bit. Your taste buds, it seems like they change as you transition into different parts of your health. But mostly beef. Chicken wings are our go-to around here. Pork ribs, of course, no barbecue sauce. We do buffalo sauce on there, or hot sauce. And some very small amounts of vegetables. If I'm on vacation and we're at a restaurant or something like that, I'll maybe order a salad just for some freshness, just to kind of change it up, but not very often. And yeah, pork is big, and bacon is the staple, of course. A lot of butter too.
Awesome. So you eat like 2 meals a day, basically, or?
Oh, I'm sorry, you asked me that. Yes, 2 meals a day here.
Okay.
So around noon and then maybe 7 or 8 at night. But I do not snack in between meals. This is something I'm kind of hardcore about. I definitely do not think snacking in between meals is good for me because I think it makes me hungrier. And of course, I only consume water, and I do drink coffee until I'm strong enough to quit coffee, which I'm not yet.
I understand. So is there anything that you would tell other people that are thinking about joining, or not joining, but thinking about going on the carnivore diet? Is there any advice you would give, anything that you would tell them?
Yes. And I do want to just add really quickly, I do consume dairy. I've lightened up quite a bit since when I first began carnivore, and I think this is important. Not to go too ham on the dairy. I kind of think it's leaves you a little bloated for a lot of us, especially some of us who are sensitive to rashes and things like that. But I do have cheese and a little heavy whipping cream. Yes, what I would like to say about the carnivore diet, which I'm a huge believer in. First of all, if you're starting it now or you're going to transition into it from keto, I would say it's okay to believe in this. It's okay. I really believe in this. And I think it has something to do with why I've been successful and I love the diet, because I've almost developed it almost like a religion. I hate to say that because it may trigger some people, but and I want to say, all of these things that are wrong with people's bodies that you hear about, not a lot of times does anyone discuss, and this is almost old news now, the fact that it starts from what you put in your body, nutrition. I mean, down the line, it starts with what you put in your body, and it starts with nutrition. And meat is what we're supposed to eat. And I'm very, very, I don't want to say dogmatic, but I'm very, very into the carnivore diet because personally it's helped me so much. Um, Things I have not mentioned and things that have improved besides looks and weight. Let's get past that for a minute. We all want that, of course. But the outside is a picture of what is on the inside. And sex drive, another thing, taboo topics I'm bringing up today. Women, you know, we can use a little help in this area. Sex drive goes up, straight up goes up. And that's all I'll say so I don't turn beet red. But I also want to say something else that's really important. It's changed the way that I am as a person. I feel very spiritual. I can meditate now, only for like 5 minutes at a time, but I'll take it. I'm very into my art. I'm a musician, and it's very, very important to me to be focused in on my art and things that I love. But I also want to also heed a warning to anybody who's trying to improve their life through low carb. And I'm going to look at my notes because I wrote this down, and Tracy was nice enough to let me talk about it really quick. If you're starting this for the first time, whether it's carnivore or a keto or a low carb lifestyle, I want to say don't get too distracted by all of the different terms that are used. There is liver toxicity. There is, you know, years and years of being on meds, over the counter or otherwise. Ketosis is another thing we can talk about. Hormone imbalance, histamine or allergies, cortisol or stress, adrenal fatigue, body dysmorphia, kidney function. These are all things that you're going to hear about, and you're going to go, oh, well, which one am I? And then these are scientific terms. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's more than that. Leaky gut, insulin resistance. We are not scientists. We're just people who just need to eat some more meat. Don't feel like you have to pick one. I went through this and I worried about, well, which problem do I have? And that's honing in on the problem. Let's hone in on the solution. And I feel like that's carnivore. Eating mostly meat. And again, I do 90%, 10%, just to, you know, keep sane a little bit. You know, I have a cheat once in a while. It doesn't make me a bad person. I feel really strongly about this. Do not drink soda. And do not consume sugar, please, or any packaged foods. I feel like that's obvious. But all these other things, thyroid, gut microbiome, they just overwhelm us. Inflammation. And I do want to say this before we go. Inflammation reduction is insane on this diet. I didn't know what inflammation was until it was gone. When it was gone, I was like, oh my God, my stomach, the difference and how I feel inside, that bloated feeling is gone. And that's like my favorite thing besides some of the stuff I've named. And I say this, 3 trifectas: butter, bacon, and beef. My other trifecta: water, salt, and sleep. And I forgot to mention, please keep pink salt as part of your regimen and keep your electrolytes in check.
Excellent, excellent information. I love
that was a lot. That was a lot.
But you know, we do hear these terms, and some people may be frightened from the diet just because they don't want to deal with those terms. But you know, we really should start it up. If you haven't started it, it's a great lifestyle. And I know that, like you said, over time your tastes change, and sometimes you might want chicken, sometimes you want beef, but you know, all in all, you're just healing along the way, and it takes time to heal. It's awesome.
Well said.
Thank you, Misty, so much for sharing your information and your story and your journey with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm sure we'll be talking with you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Tracy.